Well, let's get started in our usual way with our foam rolling on the upper back for just a minute here while we chat about what is to come. So we're going to start on that last rib area and roll all the way up to the lower, the area of your upper back where you feel like your neck meets your shoulders. That's where we're going to stop and then roll back down to your last rib area. Just back and forth here. So this morning we're going to do wrist flexors and wrist extensors because we are doing hand and wrist strategies. So keep rolling here. Just going to make sure we're all on mute as we go forward here. Okay. All right. So we are doing our rolling here. So we're going to do wrist and hand strategies. And my hope from today is that you have a couple takeaways, things that really resonate with you that you can do if you're ever finishing up with a long day of typing at the computer or driving or even gardening, like pulling weeds, anything that has to do with a lot of gripping. The things that we're going to go over today will be kind of a nice remedy for that when your hands, wrists, forearms feel tight from doing any number of gripping related activities. Okay, so I am going to get a picture time for everyone here. And just keep rolling. Let me get this picture up for everybody here. Just a moment. All right, so we've got this picture on the left with the black dotted lines going down. That is your forearm. And those are the areas of the forearm that we're going to focus on first today. So just think about like those three separate dotted lines kind of going from your elbow down to your wrist. And we'll keep that in mind for the next few minutes, what we're working on. So first of all, I want to teach you how to find your wrist flexors and extensors. So if you just kind of take your arm like this, the wrist extensors for the most part are on this top part. And if you kind of travel along your arm, you're going to feel like this bone here, that's your ulna, and travel down underneath of that. Those are your wrist flexors, the things that help you with gripping. So if you do the gripping motion, you can actually feel those muscles working, right? And then if you go on top to those wrist extensors and you extend your wrist, you feel those muscles working. So that's all we're going to be working on today for the most part is the top and the bottom of your forearm, because those muscles all travel into your forearm or into your hand and cause some hand pain and tension sometimes. So let's get out the foam roller. We are going to start with foam rolling the wrist flexors, so the muscles that help you with your gripping. I like this because I'm going to bonus give you a little like back relaxing position for this. So you're acting like you're going to get into a child's pose position and you're just palms down facing the mat, placing your forearms on the foam roller. And you can either rock your body back and forth. That's going to give you a little bit more pressure on the foam roller, or you can just kind of move your arms back and forth. Or whichever version feels better to you. But this is like a broad kind of stroke. We're not really working into those individual lines yet that I showed you on the picture. That's coming up next, where we're going to kind of get into a little bit more specific areas of the forearm. Right now, we're just kind of a broad approach, working into those, gently working into those wrist flexors, your weed pulling or typing muscles. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with the left arm. Now we're going to work in through those dotted lines that I showed you on the picture. What we're going to do is take the edge of the foam roller and work still in that same from kind of the elbow up to the wrist, but we're going to work in 2 or 3 sections across the arm, kind of like I showed you on the picture. So we're going to be doing that on the ground again, assuming that kind of child's pose with the bottom half of your body there. And then place your left forearm on the left end of your foam roller, and you can kind of roll the foam roller with your right arm. So looking like this. And also here, really just make sure your head and your neck is relaxed too. So the no reason to try to hold your head up. You can just kind of let it sink down as we're working. So you can feel how this is a little bit more specific, right? And a little bit more intense feeling because you're using the edge of that foam roller. And this really gets into those wrist flexor muscles a little bit more. So roughly working down like 2 or 3 different paths, like I showed you on that picture there. Another thing here, that left arm that you've got draped over the edge of the foam roller, really try to make your wrist loose towards the ground. Because if you're making a tight fist, then those muscles aren't going to get as good of a massage work in that forearm because they're going to be tight. So we're really trying to relax into that massage and get those wrist flexors loose. Okay, let's try that on the right side. So you're going to get that right forearm. Same thing we did on the left. That right forearm is going to be right on the edge of your foam roller there. And you're kind of moving the foam roller back and forth with both arms. You're controlling it a little bit more with the left. And as soon as you feel like you've gone for a few seconds in one area, gotten some loosening up there, kind of just scoot it over a full ½ inch to the next black dotted line, if you will, like we saw in the picture. And so you're traveling all the way up into right below the elbow and then all the way down to the wrist, the whole length of those muscles. All right, so next up, we're going to try stretching out these muscles. And these stretches combined with what we're doing right now, if you're feeling, or something, these stretches especially are something you can do, like even if you're at work typing, you can really just kind of sit in your chair and do this. So we're going to take a chair and you want to sit on your hands. Now your hands are going to be like this under your body, and they're going to be kind of below your butt. So if you sit right on them, that's uncomfortable because right, you can feel that like bony area on your butt. So you want to go a little bit below that and sit on your hands. And what you're going to do is really stick your chest out. And even then, with that, you're probably going to start to feel a little stretch in through your wrist and your forearm. And then ever so slightly, act like you're going to try to pull your hand out from under your body, but don't actually pull it out. And what that does is gives you a nice kind of myofascial stretch through the wrist. Now, why don't you take your left ear to the left shoulder just a little bit? So what that does is now creates even more length in that stretch. So you're not just feeling it in the palm of your hand and the wrist and the forearm, it's taking it up all the way through the shoulder into the neck a little bit. So really trying to elongate everything in that wrist flexor area. So you see how if you're sitting at your desk, you could even just pop into this for a minute or two. Give yourself a nice stretch. Okay, take your right ear to the right shoulder. And remember, you're trying to pull that hand out from under you just ever so slightly, not so much that it actually comes out from underneath your leg, but just a little bit. And really important in this is trying to roll your shoulders back and stick your chest out, and that's going to intensify that stretch through your wrist and your wrist flexors. Excellent. So stretching this area is so important, very related to a lot of hand pain and hand tension. So we're going to actually next go into another stretch, another way to stretch this area. And we're going to be on the mat for that one. Now I have two versions of this because if anybody here actually has a lot of hand issues, wrist issues, it may be uncomfortable for you to put pressure through your hands. So I'm going to show you the pressure through your hands version first. So we're going to be on all fours like this. And instead of having your fingertips facing away from you, you're going to twist your hands so your fingertips are actually facing your knees. And then if that is a good enough stretch, we're just going to hang out like that. If you need more, then rock your butt towards your heels a little bit and get into an angle that is a good wrist stretch for you. Now, like I mentioned, I'm going to give an alternative for anybody who this just really isn't feeling good for because of pressure on the wrists. And that would be just to do your nice prayer stretch position here with the hands and pressing out like this. So start here and then press out, fingertips. Keep the fingertips together, but you're separating the palms as much as you can. And that's going to get the same kind of stretch going on. So you pick whichever version of that you like. I am comfortable with this quadruped position here with all fours. So I'm going to hang out here and we're all just going to breathe deeply, whichever version of the stretch you're doing. Breathe deeply and feel that stretch through the forearms. Other version is also nice too. If you are in an office, I know many of you aren't, but if you're, in public and don't necessarily want to drop to the floor like this, you can kind of just do that prayer hands position, putting your hands together and get a nice forearm stretch out of that. Good. Take a couple more deep breaths here. All right. Okay. So now we're going to switch gears and head to the other side of your forearm. So tie the one on the top. So the extensors, the ones that are responsible for moving your hand like this. I'm going to show you a picture again so we can kind of visualize the area that we're going to be working on. Okay. So we've got this picture on the right here with the sandwiches. The sandwiches are going to come later. But what I want you to see here is that just how many different muscles are in those extensors. So lots of lines of muscles coming from the elbow going down to the top of your wrist there. So what we're going to do is work on that area. And we're going to come back to the sandwiches in just a minute here. Fun for everyone. Okay, so we're going to grab the foam roller again. The position that we're going to be in is similar to what we started with today. So that child's pose position, but we're going to be taking the back of the arm up and down the foam roller this time. So what I would like you to do is get into position. And that child's pose position, place your left forearm. So you got your palm facing the ceiling, left forearm on the foam roller. And then what I would like you to do is cross your right forearm over. Just kind of drape it over the middle of that left forearm. And rest your head. Okay, this is the most restful way I've found to do this, is just rest your head on top of that right forearm And we are rocking back and forth. So kind of just moving your body forward and backwards. Again, this is a broad appeal. We're getting a lot of different muscles in here. We're just kind of generally working into that wrist extensor area they showed you in the picture. And we will get more specific to one muscle after this when the extensor group. So right now, just kind of focusing on everything on the back of the forearm here. Again, like I mentioned with the wrist flexors, try to keep that fist loose. So that left hand that's contacting, the left arm that's contacting the foam roller, just make sure that hand is kind of loose. The wrist is relaxed. And that's going to keep those muscles in the best position to get worked on in this foam roller position. Back and forth. Okay, and now we're going to switch sides. So place the right forearm on top of the foam roller. Left forearm is kind of crossing over the middle of that right forearm, just draping on top, and you're resting your forehead on the left forearm. And here you can move the arm itself back and forth, or if you're more comfortable kind of rocking your whole body back and forth, it doesn't matter which way, as long as you're applying comfortable pressure on that right forearm with the foam roller. Okay, remember to breathe here, especially if it feels a little tender. Make sure you're breathing through it. Okay. All right, so now we're going to work on a stretch for that area that we just worked on. So we're going to bring our chairs out again and sit on our hands again, but our hands are going to be in a little different position this time. So this time, instead of sitting on our hands with our palms contacting the back of our bodies, back of our legs, we're going to be sitting on our hands this way. So you're going to be sitting on the top part of your hands. Actually, I think I just told you that backwards. Nope, we are sitting on the palms of our hands. Okay, so sitting on the palms of our hands, like so. What I would like you to do is push your chest out and twist your elbows so they are pointing behind you. And then, as before, take your left ear to your left shoulder. So what's going to intensify this stretch for you is just getting as much of the back of your hand in contact with the chair as possible. So even as you are sticking your chest out, pointing your elbows behind you, kind of make sure the back of your hand is contacting the chair as much as possible and not lifting off. And that's going to be a pretty good stretch for you. So keep leaning into the left ear to the left shoulder. So, right, we're feeling the stretch in the area we just worked on with the foam roller. And now take your right ear to your right shoulder. So I think it's important to do what we're doing right now and adding a little bit of shoulder neck stretch into this, because sometimes that tension that develops in shoulders and necks can actually translate into issues further down the arm. So this is just a nice way to stretch the hand, the forearm, but also pay attention to some things that might be happening further up too. Now, let's kind of refocus here. Keep those hands under your legs. Keep the chest stuck out and elbows pointed towards your back, behind you, and drop your chest. So now we're kind of, if you can feel that, drop your chin to your chest, feeling, giving you a stretch in the back of the neck and shoulders. So this is kind of like a nice all-around relaxer, especially if you're doing a lot of computer work. Kind of nailing all the areas that get tight with this one: neck, shoulders, hands, wrists. So this is a winner for those of you who are computer people. This one right here. Okay, one more time on the picture. We're going to take a look at those sandwiches that I talked about earlier, and I'm going to show you a self-massage technique to work into a specific muscle on the forearm. All right, see the sandwiches here, okay? So that's your brachioradialis muscle and really gets tight a lot. It's a big muscle. We're gonna keep a sandwich grip. Those of you who were at the last stretch and roll will remember the sandwich grip. Pick your favorite sandwich and grip it. So we're gonna do a sandwich grip on that muscle. So how do you find it? So actually mine sticks out pretty far, you can see on this side, but it's that muscle that's, if you hold your hand like this, take your thumb, travel the length of your thumb, it's this muscle right here. You can feel if you can grab it right in here, showing right in here. So if you go like this, you can feel it kind of popping out underneath your hand. That's what we're going to work on now. If anybody here has ever had tennis elbow, so what you're going to do is grip and then kind of move your hand up and down like that, and feeling that muscle slide underneath, and grip and slide underneath. But guess what? We're going to lay down and do this, because why not? Let's relax. Let's take a load off. So let's just lay on the mat. You can grab a pillow even if you want, just to kind of get yourself in an ultimate relaxing position. We're going to start gripping the left brachioradialis. So gripping that left with your right sandwich grip. Imagine your favorite sandwich and how much you want to hold on to it. So you're pulling, gripping, and maybe pulling a little bit away from the forearm. And you're going to find probably a couple of spots that are pretty tender. And you'll hold on there to that spot as you move your wrist up and down. And as I was getting ready to say, anybody who's ever had any tennis elbow issues, this is going to feel like a very familiar area to you. This gets really tight with a tennis elbow. But like I said, anything, even doing like bicep curls, upright rows, anything gripping related, this can get fired up and cause wrist pain. So loosening this up can be a really powerful tool for you. So this is called also active release, because you're actively kind of flexing and extending that wrist while you hold pressure on that muscle. Something I've done with a lot of my clients before who've had issues in this area, and really is a nice way to release the muscle here. Okay, so now we're going to switch sides. Take that left hand, place it on that right brachioradialis muscle. You're starting up right by that elbow, where you feel like you can get your muscle around that little rope, your hand around that little ropey muscle, and you're going to hold a spot and flex and extend your hand. And then after you've flexed and extended a few times, just move down an inch or so. Still staying on that muscle where you can feel it moving underneath of your hand. And then move down a little further. And once you've gotten down, you're not going to get all the way to the wrist because you can kind of feel like it disappears and just feels like you're kind of holding on to more bone than muscle. Then just move back up. So you're going to get maybe like 2/3 of the way down your forearm and then start moving back up towards the elbow as you flex and extend that wrist. All right. It looks like everyone's just kind of waving to me, right? We've got our hands waving back and forth. I'll take it. Take a nice Saturday morning wave from you all. Okay. All right. So 2 quick stretches and then we're going to be done. So one is to kind of, and it's like an inverted prayer hand. You put the backs of your hands together and then you kind of travel those elbows away from each other, just keeping the fingertips in contact with each other. The backs of the hands kind of start to pull apart, but the fingertips stay together. And then you feel that stretch right along that forearm area. So your fingernails should like all be in contact with each other. And then what you're pulling apart is just the backs of your hands. Okay, and then one more. Let's lay on our backs again. Just make a fist, a loose fist. So you've got the backs of your hands on the mat and just kind of curl your fists in towards your elbow and towards your body. And what that's going to do is give you a nice stretch. If you don't feel very much of a stretch here in their wrist extensors, then tighten your fist a little bit. But imagine that is going to be helpful for you. This is also, you don't have to do this lying down. You can easily do this when you're standing or in a chair. I just wanted everyone to be as relaxed as possible this morning. So you're lying, pulling those fists in towards your elbows, and just holding that stretch. A couple deep breaths here. All right. Okay. Hope everyone's feeling a little looser in the hands and the wrists. Just a quick note, our last stretch and roll is on Tuesday, and we're going to be doing some posture work. I'm going to send out a list of all the April stretch and roll classes, so you can kind of do a few if you want between now and when May stretch and roll starts. May stretch and roll is going to be Mondays at 8 a.m. and Saturdays at 11 a.m. So that might factor into if you feel like you're going to be able to make those and sign up. And I'm going to send out a 1-question survey. So last time I asked about things that people might want to incorporate as far as subjects and body areas, and I got some really great feedback, and that kind of fed into what I planned for this month. So I'd like to give everyone a chance to be part of the design of next month as well. If there's anything you'd like to focus on, I just have like a 1-question survey I'll send out, and you can put your 2 cents in if you like on that. So other than that, have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday.